Hi, my name is Becky, and I love to read books and watch movies. And I love talking about them. Media literacy, I love it. I love it. I also love discussion. I originally wanted to read books to, my friends, my families, random strangers on the internet, but, copyright laws. So instead, I'm just going to explain or discuss my favorite things movies, books, short stories, what have yous. And I'm going to start with my favorite, Persuasion by Jane Austen. This is like one of the, everybody likes Pride and Prejudice. I like Pride and Prejudice. It's one of my favorite books too. It's great. The movie, the BBC series, I have it all. But something about Anne Elliot, our main character, is just so compelling and attractive to me that I have to stand. It's just such a good book, and it's like really smart commentary of the times, which is what Jane Austen was known for, just commenting on what's happening at the time. So that's one thing to like read these books and understand them. You do have to have like a very at least somewhat, you got to somewhat understand the social rules and whatnot. This is right after the French Revolution. So the things have changed. The monarchies and all the other places are like, ooh, that's a problem. Because people already know we can take you down. But also they start finding inspiration in new things. And just like everything, they start to look at the Renaissance and the Greeks and like, oh my God, the Renaissance and the Greeks are so great. What they had going on was amazing. For someone, mostly rich, upper class men, which means women lose whatever right we had at the time, which is yippee. And so this is something that Jane Austen discusses in her books a lot, which is the one main thing a woman can do to get some agency, protection, house, income is to get married. Her books, I feel like, are mischaracterized as like, oh, it's a romance book about, no. Her books are about characters and what happens through them. If the female characters, which are the main characters in her books, just happen to get married, it's whatever. It's because, that's what you could do at the time. You can either be a governess or get a job, but you can't be at the level that the men are. You can't sustain yourself by yourself because like, it's not going to go good for you. It's not. Or make yourself a mistress in somebody's case. Mrs. Clay, who said that? Who said that? Oh my God, a ghost. Anyway, so the ideal is that you find yourself a nice, wealthy man. But wealth is not the only thing that matters. Like, okay, like, oh, he's got money, he's got this, he got that. He also needs to know the right people. He needs to have like, and that's something that everybody needs to have, especially if you're a woman who's like trying to get married. You might have a lower status in life, but if you know the right people, you get that meal ticket. Which is why it's like a lot of these books have such difficult relationships and such many characters, because that was the thing to do. You had to go outside. You had to talk to people, your neighbors, your friends, the shop guy, all that jazz. And which is why I made a handy dandy chart for people to understand the relationships in this book, because it's a lot of names, and like using first names is something very personal. You just didn't use your first name. Like you didn't say a first name just like that. It had to be like family members, best of friends, lovers, spouses. So, that's why it gets confusing, especially if it's a family, i.e. the Musgroves. So many Mr. and Mrs. Musgroves. So I'm just going to use the names themselves of the characters. And I did some abbreviations. I didn't add every character because I feel like too many cooks. So I added the most important ones. In my humble opinion. All right. So let's start with explaining maybe not explaining the characters, but at least explaining a character. Anne Elliot, my queen, my dove, my angel. She is like, from all the Austen characters, like she's my favorite because she is so well thought out. She's so thoughtful. She's so necessary. She's so giving. She's so kind and pensive. She's like all the neurons. She has all the neurons of her family. Critical thinking skills to the max. But she's also very overlooked. And according to the writing, she's not that pretty because whatever beauty she had in the blossom of youth has withered away. She's 27. They act like she's like 87. But, you know, those times were those times and yada, yada, yada. And Elliot lives in a house full of idiots. Every single Elliot is a dummy flop, except the mother, which has passed, and that's brought the problems. Basically, Sir Walter Elliot is a sir. He's a baron. He's got status, power. He lives in Kellynch Hall. He is like the big boss in his like town. Like, oh, I manage the land. I manage the land in Kellynch Hall. Walter Elliot, who every single day picks up a book to read about his family tree. Like that every single day he'll pick a book from this big library. It's a book about himself and he reads about himself every day. Yeah. But the thing about the Elliots, they're broke. They are spending the money that they don't have and they owe money to everyone. It's serious. It's like, it's gotten to the point that they could lose Kellynch Hall, you know? So the Elliots have a neighborhood friend, Lady Russell, who used to be like besties with the former Mrs. Elliot, i.e. Anne, Elizabeth, and Mary's mom. And she's like, oh my God, I cannot see this house being lost. Like, this is the house where my bestie lived and died. I'm going to help him. And so her and the family lawyer for the Elliots sit down and it's like, okay, Walter Elliot, Sir Walter Elliot, you have got to economize. You have got to stop spending money. And he is like, I guess I could stop giving to charities and maybe make the horse-drawn carriages from like a 2-horse to a 1-horse. Like, and like maybe not redecorate again for the next season. Yeah, that's good. And of course his daughter, the enabler, Elizabeth, is also like, yes, Papa, that's a great idea. Obviously, that's not gonna work. Like, these people owe money. So Anne Elliot, the sweet baby smart angel that she is like, well, I'm gonna make a list of all the things we can do to get that money and we're gonna make a plan. And she and Lady Russell and the Elliot lawyer get to it. They're like, but Walter's like, oh, Anne help with this? It's trash. It's garbage then. For some reason, they don't like Anne. I don't know why. They just don't. Like, she's done nothing wrong. Her existence makes them hate. Like, they just do not see Anne. Anne is like, I pretend I do not say it. It's ridiculous. Obviously, because they're not going to follow these plans and their plan sucks, the Elliot lawyer is like, you're going to have to rent the place. Sir Walter Elliot is like, absolutely not. I'm not going to rent out my house to no stranger. Absolutely not. So the lawyer's like, okay, you're going to have to sell the house. And he's like, okay, then. I guess I'm going to have to rent it out to someone. So the lawyer is like, well, I'm going to talk to some people and I'm going to see who could be like a good person to rent it out to. And so the lawyer goes around talking, networking as one does, and he finds 2 people. The Crofts. Sir Admiral Croft. Well, not Sir technically. Just the Admiral Croft. And Mrs. Croft, his wife. They are, they're in the Navy. They work with ships, whatever the version it is. Shipmen for the war. And, Walter Elliot's like, no. Because people who work at sea are ugly. And I wish I was joking. That's literally one of the reasons why he doesn't want to let to people who work at sea, because like they get ugly because the sun hits them and they get brown. And their skin gets so rough and wrinkly and blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, he's a brokey broke that has no say in this. So he concedes because he knows that the Navy people are the best people to take care of a house. And so they let the house to the Crofts. Elizabeth takes it upon herself to make sure that the house is okay and to make sure okay, so where are we going to live when we rent the house? And it's like, oh, we can stay local and we can stay close to our sister Mary and to Lady Russell. But unfortunately, the elites are like, no. This place is too, we cannot downgrade. We can't go from a great place to a lame place. That is not how we play. And so they were like, oh, we're going to Bath. For those who don't know, Bath at this time got really cosmopolitan. It's like the place to be. It's like an affordable New York, New York City. It's not exactly London, but it still has a great social scene. It's got lots of things to do, plays, shopping, eating, good society, some nobility. It's the place to go. Anne hates Bath. But then again, who cares about what Anne wants? So she has to go to Bath, and she's like, But, it is what it is. The Crofts get there. They're like, oh my God, this is such a lovely house, yada, yada, yada. It's a good thing we just got this house because, we have family member coming in, and everybody's just like, oh, who is it? Do we know them? And it's like, oh yeah, Wentworth. And Anne is flabbergasted. Anne's flabbergasted. She's like, Wentworth. So years ago, I believe 7 to 8 years ago, Anne was a young girl in love with a young man named Frederick Wentworth. Frederick Wentworth and Anne were like this. They knew each other so well. The way that the book describes it, no two souls knew each other better. They were in sync. The problem is that Frederick Wentworth had a lot of dreams. I'm going to become a captain, and I'm going to get money, and I'm going to make you live a good life. That was just spit, though. Not that he couldn't do it, but at the time, nobody knew that he could do it. And Lady Russell was looking out for Anne, which is the closest thing she has to a daughter, and it's like, I cannot let my sweet Anne marry this brokey broke who, even if he wasn't broke, he doesn't know anybody worth knowing. He doesn't have connections. He doesn't have a good job. His family, pretty petite. I think at the time his sister wasn't even married to the admiral yet. And even then, at the time, being in the Navy was not this great thing that could let you have status and whatnot. It was a job that was just okay. Most people who joined the Navy or any type of army were people who in need of money, so it's not looking good. Lady Russell goes to Sir Walter and is like, sit me down so I can tell Anne to come to her senses and tell him no. They persuaded her. And it's her father, her basically mother figure. I don't remember if Elizabeth was involved or not. Probably. I don't know why though, but she doesn't care. But they all basically tell her, dump the man. And she does. And she lives with that regret until almost a decade later, she's still regretting. She's like, and so when the name pops up, she's like, oh, ugh. She's like, what am I going to do? I don't think I can face him yet. Good news for her. Her annoying sister, Mary Musgrove, formerly Mary Elliot, is like, And I'm so sick and sad. I need you to come and take care of me. Now, something about Mary Musgrove is that she's always wants attention. For some reason, she needs attention. Middle child syndrome? Maybe. I'm not quite sure about the ages. I think she's the youngest. Either way, she craves attention. So, she's just like, oh, Anne, come over and visit me. Oh, I'm so sick and tired and sad. And Anna's like, bet. Because then she doesn't have to meet Frederick Wentworth. She's sweating buckets thinking I'm going to see him again. And she's like, oh, I don't have to do that now. So she goes to her sister. Her sister's a real piece of work. And her sister's married to Charles Musgrove, who is a very decent guy. No notes. They have 2 kids. I don't remember the kids' names. It's not important. The kids don't behave. The kids don't listen to their mom. The kids do listen to Auntie Anne because Anne is the only one that has just sense to do things. So there she is, and Mary's like, oh man, I am so sick and sad, and nobody comes visit me. My husband doesn't care about me. Like, they were gonna have a dinner in the family house, because there's the family house where Musgrove seniors live, and then there's the house where she lives. The houses have names. I don't have time I don't have the energy to remember all these names. The only one that really matters is Kellynch Hall. So she's like, oh, I went to the big house, and the family big house, and they left me alone, and nobody cared for me. But when they offered me to go, I was so tired and so blah, blah, blah. So Anna's there like, it's okay, sister, it's okay, it's gonna be okay, while also taking care of the kids. The thing about Anne is that she's so dependable. Everybody in the Musgrove family wants her. They're like, oh, Anne, thank you for coming. I need you to sit down with me and listen. Basically, it's the whole family, the whole Musgroves against Mary, and Mary against the Musgroves. So Charles Musgrove has 2 sisters, Henrietta and Louisa. That's a surprise that was going to help us out for later. They're young girls, teen girls. They're like so silly and and flighty and like airheaded. And they're like, ooh, Anne, come and listen to us. Mary sucks, blah. And Mary's like, oh, just my sisters-in-laws are so airheaded and flighty, blah. It's a whatever. So while she's there, it's a gag of the century. While she's there, Anne is taking care of one of her little nephews who had an accident. So she's not at the big house when Frederick Wentworth comes and visits. Because apparently he's trying to make oh, I'm coming back and I want to make connections with everybody in town and my town. I want to see what's up. So she's gagged. She's like, thank God my little nephew fell off that tree and hurt himself. So she is just happy that she's taking care of these kids. So she doesn't have to deal with the ordeal of it all. Frederick Wentworth is staying in the family house while she's there, and she's like, oh, thank God, we're gonna have to meet sooner or later. And sooner or later she does, because I believe it's a couple of days later when who comes to the small house of the Musgrove Juniors? Captain Frederick Wentworth. Captain. You know why? Because he made it. Everything he said he was gonna do, he did. And now Anne is just, she's like, oh. So it's a very nerve-wracking thing. He comes, he sees her, she is like, I'm okay. I've seen him already, so I'm chill, I'm fine. She's not chill. She's not fine. She is she realizes that how much she missed him and loved him, and she realizes oh, so all those years of separation where I thought everything was okay was for naught, because I still love him. And worst of all for her, so do the young Musgrove girls, Henrietta and Louisa. because they're young, they're at the marrying age, and this is a handsome single captain with good reputation, thanks to the fact that his sister got married to an admiral. He knows somebody important. He has friends all over the ports. He is interesting, educated, just a very interesting person. And they're like, oh my god, we could so marry this guy. And Anne is already almost 30, retiring age for the times, which is stupid, but I digress. And she's like, why me? It's tragic for Anne, but she's like, whatever, I'm just gotta keep going. And honestly, it doesn't help that, like, Wentworth is acting like a, I don't want to swear, I don't think I want to swear, but a jack. Like, he is saying stuff, he is being mean, he's looking at Anne like she's the gum at the bottom of his shoe, like, it's you. It's sad for Anne. So on one of these occasions, like, he even goes as far as say, like, oh, she looks rough, she doesn't look anything as pretty as she used to when she was young. I'll knock you out, actually. But yeah, it's dire. And in one of these, like, situations where the family's going along, tra la 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 la, Louise is like, decides to take Henrietta to see their cousin, Charles Hare. Trigger warning, incest. I think they're cousins, they're related. Trigger warning, incest. Like, Charles had his eye on Henrietta, and Henrietta had her eyes on Charles, but she is a teenage girl, and then she saw a super mega hottie. So, what's a girl to do? But Louise is like, no, that man is gonna be mine. So she takes her sister to see Charles, and so they're like, I'm gonna go with her to walk. And then of course everybody's like, oh, let's all walk to see the Hare house, even Mary. But like, Mary's super weird about it. She's like, well, I'm not gonna go in there because, like, they're poor, nobody cares, Mary. And so because this is gonna be a proposal, Henrietta goes alone, and Louisa stays with Captain Frederick Wentworth to, like, flirt and chat with him. And this is where we discover something interesting. Charles Musgrove never wanted to marry Mary. He wanted to marry Anne. He went to Anne, was like, Anne, you're so good and smart. Your critical thinking skills are to the max. You're such a good listener. Marry me. And Amanda's like, no, because she's still holding on to that unrequited love for, like, Wentworth. So she's like, she says no. And then Charles marries Mary because he's like, well, they're related, they have to be, like, the same, right? R.I.P. to my man Charles, he really thought. And Wentworth is like, oh, she rejected? Interesting. And through all this, it turns out Henrietta and Charles Hare are engaged. Yay! I'm not gonna think about it too much. And so they go back to, like, the family house, and in the meantime, Anna's getting tired of walking and walking and walking. And in the meantime, ooh, the Crofts are here visiting, and they have a garage. And Wentworth, Captain Frederick Wentworth, is like, oh, hey sis, could you offer a ride to Anne? Because I noticed that she's tired. He notices that she's tired. And so they're like, oh, of course, come on over, Anne, let's go. And Anne is like, oh, he noticed that. I better not think about it too hard. So through this time that Anne and Frederick Wentworth are in the same space, like, yeah, he talks disrespectfully about her a bit, at least for the times. Like, it's not borderline disrespectful, but it's like, if I was at the times and you were talking to me like that, you wouldn't have teeth, because I would have, But it's also, he starts to be a little bit more reserved about it, because he's noticing things like, everybody needs Anne. She's so good, and he's like, but people are not treating her good. Like, why can't people see what I see? This is Anne. She's good. But all good things must come to an end, because with Mary's crisis averted and Mary, like Anne's nephew, not being sick anymore after falling off a tree, she has to go to Bath. But does she? Because Captain Frederick Wormwood is like, hey, before everybody goes to Bath, Anne, why don't we go to Lyme? I have some friends. Like, before everybody has to go back to whatever it is they're doing, let's go to Lyme, which is like a cute beach town that is actually very much real and you can visit, just like you can visit Bath in London. So they all decide, yeah, let's go there. Yeah. So they go there. They go visit. He has some friends. Captain Harville and Admiral Croft. Wait, no, Admiral Croft. Oops, I wrote it wrong. An admiral, somebody. Some dude. Let's call him Captain Whoozits. And so they're like, yay, we're in Lyme. It's so beautiful, the sea. Anne likes the sea. It's a quiet town. The sea is beautiful. She's getting fresh air. She's feeling reinvigorated. She is not in Bath. Hallelujah. And, Wentworth is acting less of a jerk to her, less of a jack to her. So it's all good. Like, her complexion is evening out. She's getting a little rosy cheeks. It's all good. A strange gentleman who she doesn't know kind of turns around, like, does a double take, like, oh, she was cute. Wentworth is there, and he's like, what was that about? That's Secret Strangers, the prize tool that can help us out for later. And so everything's good, yada, yada, yada. They're staying at Captain Whoozit's house, and Captain Harville is there. Captain Harville is a poet enthusiast, and he's espresso depresso because he had a sweetie who was Captain Whoozit's sister. He went out to see his sweetie died of sickness. Which one? I don't know. Whichever one. Back at then, it was of the times to get sick and die because, modern healthcare, not there. So he's espresso depresso, lamenting poetry, and Anne, our good, sweet baby angel Anne, is just there talking to him, and he's like, brought up to spirits, like, oh, you like poetry too? So they're chatting. Meanwhile, Wentworth is like, mean mugging, like, he's very much jealous. What can I say? One of these days, like, they're on the last few days of this little jaunt, they're leaving, like, the hotel that they're staying at, and they bump back into the strange man, and he's all again looking at Anne like, oh, hi, hello. And this time Mary's there, and Mary's like, I know who that is. That is our cousin, Mr. Elliot. Not to be confused with Sir Walter Elliot, Mr. Elliot, Cousin Elliot, if you will. Cousin Elliot was, of course, the cousin. He was closely related to the Elliots. Of course, trigger warning, incest. Elizabeth, mean sister, wanted to marry him because then she gets the rights to the Callanch Hall. She gets the rights to the house. So, of course, they wanted to be friends with him. They wanted to be like, oh, yes, come over. Like, let's have a connection. Let's get maybe potential talks of marriage. He pays them dust. He does not talk to them. Every time they invite him, he's like, yeah, for sure. He never appears, never comes. And they're like, oh, man. And apparently there's word that he's been going around town bad-mouthing them to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. And they're like, excuse me? Final nail of the coffin, Cousin Elliot marries a poor girl, some girl without status, and then he widows. It does not look good. And after the paying them dust, the bath mouthing, and this marriage that the Elliots don't approve of, contact cut. It's not happening. So Mary and Anne are like, oh yeah, it's Cousin Elliot, blah 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 blah, and they go out for a walk, and they're by the sea bank. the seawall. Shh, it's all good. And they're walking down the steps of the seawall, and Louisa, the effervescent little fairy that she is like, I'm gonna throw myself from the top of the stairs on the seawall, and I want Mr. Wentworth, Captain Wentworth, to catch me. And he does. He catches her like, hey, come over here. Ha ha ha, young girl. And she does it again, and they're like, no, 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 don't do that. And she's like, no, I'm not gonna change my mind, because she's young and dumb. It happens when you're young. You have to be dumb. It's just part of it. And so she does it again. This time, they're nowhere near to catch her. She falls head first into the ground. Louisa is unresponsive. She is not waking up. Everybody is freaking out. Mary's like, oh my God, she's dead. She's dead. She's dead. Her brother's like, what am I going to tell Mama? Anne is the only one that's like, stop it. We are going to fix this. I need Captain Harville, you go get a doctor. You men, let's go carry her to Mr. Whoever's houses. Let's go, people. Let's go. And Wentworth is like, Captain Wentworth is like, oh, Anne, you're so good and smart. This is inside. Like, he is actively admiring her because he is a captain. He runs the ship. And he was also like flabbergasted. He's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to tell her parents? This is horrible. And she's the only one that actively does something. That's the power of Anne. Everybody can look up to Anne. Nonetheless, notwithstanding, Louise is okay. She's in, I don't know why. She fell, knocked her head. She's not dead. She's not responding, though. That's bad news. They have to tell her parents. And they're like, well, Anne has to stay. But of course, Mary being Mary and finding a time, it's just an Elliot narcissist gene. It's like, no, I want to stay with her because we are related. What can Anne do anyway? Everything. Anne can do everything, apparently, because none of y'all did anything. You were screaming that she was dead. So they decide, okay, well, we're going to take Henrietta, because Henrietta was there. We're going to take Henrietta home. Captain, you go with her and with Anne, because Anne can comfort Henrietta. And so they go, and, Captain Frederick Wentworth is just like, how could this happen? She was under my care, because she's a young girl. They went there through his recommendation. He was supposed to keep her safe, and he didn't. This could be bad for him. If that girl does not get better, social just annihilation. And Anna's like, none of that. No, let's go do what we have at hand. And because all the Musgroves are obviously like, no, we have to go see our daughter. We have to go see our sister, blah, 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 blah. Anne has no choice but to like, Lime Trip got in half. She does have to go back to Bath. And she's like, whatever. So she goes to Bath with her father, her sister, and her sister's bestie, Mrs. Clare. I didn't talk much about Mrs. Clay because she didn't have an importance until now. Mrs. Clay is single. She is the Elliot lawyer's daughter. And she is very close friends with Sir Walter Elliot and Elizabeth Elliot. The reason why she's in Bath? Because Elizabeth was like, oh yeah, she has to come. She has to come to the family house. We can't do it without her. And why is Anne not done with her? Well, what's Anne gonna do, really? Like, let her go to Mary's. Like, she's useless. Even though she actively does everything for the house. And so they're there, and they're like, oh, this place is great. We love it. We're important. We have a name. We have a house. They're obviously still probably spending, but yeah. And they have made an acquaintance to a relative of some sorts. They don't really explain, like a cousin, distant aunt. Lady Dalrymple, who's like, it's like socially above. I don't remember if she's a viscountess or whatever. All they know is that the social climbing Elliots love this lady, and so they're seeing her, they're sucking up to her, yada yada yada. Good news is Lady Russell is vacationing in Bath, so Anne has a friend, and it also happens that Anne's I believe old governess slash friend Mrs. Smith is there too. So Anne is like, well, at least I don't have to spend time in places with my family, because I hate them, or rather I don't like to be around them. I can't blame if she hates them. They're horrible. So there she's just chilling, going between Lady Russell's house and Mrs. Smith's house, and it's all good. And then one day she's in her house with her horrible family, and who comes to see them but Cousin Elliot? Apparently, he's in town, just like, oh yeah, I heard you guys went to Bath and I'm here, and oh my god, Anne, it's you. How you doing, girl? You look great. Yada, yada, yada. And the editors are like, why are you here? Like, we don't like you. Or you think. So the thing is, here's the thing. Sir Walter Elliot never had a son. By then, the only way you could keep a house, or at least keep in the line, you have a son, or you get married to somebody who gets the house. Sir Walter Elliot did not have a son. He had a son briefly, but unfortunately his son passed. Sad, very sad. And he never had more sons. So it's like, well, I can't keep the house. I don't exactly understand why, but the way that he spends is probably collateral for the bank. But Cousin Elliot is the next in line. So if Cousin Elliot marries one of the remaining, Elliot's sisters, she becomes the owner of the house with him. Of course, Elizabeth is like, it's going to be me, obviously. But unbeknownst to her, Cousin Elliot has met Anne, and he is charmed by her, because who wouldn't? She's the best option, duh. And so Anne is spending a lot of time with him, chatting him up. She's like, yeah, he's a guy. Something about him is a little bit weird though, his behavior too easy, his affections are too, something's amiss here. I can't quite put my finger on it. Something's not right. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But she is polite, and she keeps her tongue shut, because she really doesn't have any proof that anything's wrong. She's just noticing that his way of manner and the way that he's just easily explained all the wrongs he did to the family away is a little suspicious. But anyway, she's just chilling in Bath like usual, yada yada yada, spending a lot of time with Cousin. And then who does she meet one day? Captain Frederick Wentworth. He's back, and he's in Bath, and she's like, oh, why are you in Bath? What's going on? And he's like, well, let me tell you the good news. Louisa woke up. She woke up, and she's getting married. Not to me. To Captain Harville, Mr. Poet fan. So apparently, while Louisa was in a sick state, Captain Harville stood next to her and read poems and just kept in touch with her, and that made her very affectionate to him. They just vibe with each other, and after the thing, he's just a very soft and gentle man. She might have a little PTSD, because in the book it explains that whenever there's a loud noise, she's like, oh, and so he's there chilling, oh, poetry, soft poetry, poetry, soft poetry, God. So, Captain Frederick Wentworth and Captain whoever are there well, that's our bestie, so we have to help him pick out and get everything ready for the wedding, and which better place than in Bath, cosmopolitan chic Bath, right? So they're there, and Captain Frederick Wentworth is being much more kinder, much more nice to Anne, talking nice to her. He's a little yeah. And she's like, oh, what's this? Oh, Until cousin Elliot comes up and ruins everything because, he's just always around Anne, and it's just a lot. And because of this closeness, there is talk about the fact that Anne is gonna marry him. And it's like a little, I don't remember if the book establishes whether or not he was the one who started, or it was just, wishful thinking of Lady Russell and everybody else related to the Elliots. But Anne is like, no. So one day she goes to see her friend Mrs. Smith, and Mrs. Smith is like, well, when you get married to him, could you tell your man to help me out? And she's like, what do you mean help me out? Like, what, do you know him? And she's like, well, yeah. Cousin Elliot and my husband, Mr. Smith, were very close friends, to the point that Mr. Smith made me made him executor of his will. And when Mr. Smith passed away, he was supposed to help me with the money or whatever, but he never did. And Anna's like, what? And that's when Mrs. Smith was like, so I don't want to talk about your husband. And I was like, girl, no ring on my finger. No talk with my dad. It's not happening. I need you to tell me everything you can. And so the truth comes out. Cousin Elliot, I don't know if I referred to Mrs. Smith. I don't remember. But anyway, cousin Elliot is no good. He's money hungry, interested, self-important. He did say those mean things, and he is actively taking money out of Mrs. Smith's will, and Mr. Smith's will and stuff, leaving Mrs. Smith poor. Mrs. Smith is disabled, by the way, so she has a nurse. She has just enough for a nurse and to do menial housework. Unfortunately, she is very much poor, and Anne is like, that's interesting. So her instincts were right. This guy was sneaky. This guy was trash. This guy was garbage from the get-go. And it would explain a lot of things. Then she's just like, oh, so he's just getting close to the family because now that he has access to the house, he's probably planning on marrying me to get the house. Honestly, the way that the books explained it, it could be that, and also it just could be that cousin Elliot does want to marry Anne because she's lovely aside, because she's lovable, and she's like, I got a lot of thinking to do. And then she's in her house pondering, and the Musgroves are here, yay! And they're coming here for the wedding stuff. Henrietta and Louisa. I don't know that Louisa's in Bath, but I believe Henrietta is. And it's we're just getting our stuff together, yada yada yada. And so they're all sitting together talking of wedding stuff. Frederick Wentworth and Captain Hoositz are there, because they got to do right by their man Harville. So they're all chatting, and Mrs. Croft is there, Frederick's sister, and she's chatting oh yeah, it's a good thing they're getting married, but I hope they're not too hasty because, romance is nice and all, but you really got to think things through, especially if you're a girl. You just can't get with the first man you find, even if he does have great promises. Meanwhile, Anna's talking to Captain Hoositz, who's I know I'm glad Harville is getting a happy ending and he's getting a wife. I just wish it just seems so unfair because my sister who passed away, it's really just unfair, it's just sad. It's sad. And so Anne and Captain Hoositz have this very deep conversation about men and women and love and constancy when it comes to past relationships. And Captain Wentworth is at an earshot, and he's suddenly he's acting a little bizarre, and Anna's what's that about? And he's writing really fast and scribbling, and Anna's like noticing, but she's like, well, whatever that's about. And so that she finishes the conversation, and she's Captain Hoozits and Captain Wentworth are about to leave, but Captain Wentworth leaves a letter on the desk, and Anna's like, he left this. I wonder what's that about. Let me just look, because she's noticed that he was like giving her eyes, like looking at her some kind of way, and she's like, well, what's this about? I think again, it's been a while since I've read this book, and so I'm gonna look for the page. I am gonna read. If I'm gonna have to read anything, it's gonna be this letter. Spoiler for anybody who hasn't read the book, I'd say leave now. It's gonna take like a couple of minutes to read this letter, but also this book is like 40,000 years old, so you've been warned. I can listen no longer in silence. I must speak to you by such means as are within my reach. You pierce my soul. I am half agony, half hope. Tell me not that I am too late, that such precious feelings are gone forever. I offer myself to you again with a heart even more your own than when you almost broke it 8 years and a half ago. Dare not say that man forgets sooner than woman, that his love has an earlier death. I have loved none but you. Unjust I may have been, weak and resentful I have been, but never inconstant. You alone have brought me to Bath. For you alone I think and plan. Have you not seen this? Can you fail to have understood my wishes? I had not waited even these 10 days could I have read your feelings as I think you must have penetrated mine. I can hardly write. I am every instant hearing something which overpowers me. You sink your voice, but I can distinguish the tones of that voice when they would be lost on others. Too good, too excellent creature. You do us justice indeed. You do believe that there is true attachment and constancy among men. Believe it to be the most fervent, most undeviating in Frederick Wentworth. I must go, uncertain of my faith, but I shall return hither or follow your party as soon as possible. A word, a look will be enough to decide whether I enter your father's house this evening or never. Yeah, so after that letter, who wouldn't be? Just, of course, after reading that letter, our girl Anne is like the first time I read this, I was in class and I was like open mouth, like looking at her like shocked. My heart palpitations were good book. It's so good. It's so good. Like, I'm sorry, like, it's such a good book. So Anna's like obviously flabbergasted. She's like flushing, and everybody's like, Anne, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I just need some air. And she goes get some air. And while she's out walking, who does she bump into? Frederick Wentworth. And so they just walk side by side. They're, of course, accompanied, I believe, by Admiral Croft, because he's like, well, Anne, I'm going to walk you out, but that's not important. What's important right now is that they talk. Finally, like, in the last few pages of the book, they finally have something they should have had the first time they saw each other, a conversation. So Frederick Wentworth just really did come in to be hyper petty and like, oh, I'm going to find a wife, and it's not going to be Anne because she's probably like, ugh, Anne, stinky, boo, I'm hurt, blah, I'm a man, blah. So, yeah. But then, he meets Anne again, and he's like, well, she looks rough, and I have these young girls looking after me, so ha ha ha. But then he realizes, oh, why are people treating my amazing Anne this way? It's kind of weird. And he's also realizing, like, wait, she rejected a marriage to, like, a man with a good status. And then he's like, Oh, I still love this woman. And then he notices that she's so good and people are noticing her. She's like, oh. But by then he's in too deep with the Musgroves. He's been entertaining these girls and like, ooh, tee flirting and hanging out with them. He's like, I have dug myself in a hole so deep without a ladder or rope to climb back. It's not looking good for him. And then the accident happens and he's like, I'm going to have to marry the girl out of duty. But then she decides to get with Captain Poetry Harville, and he's like, yes. And he's like, well, I'm not gonna waste my chance a second time. I'm gonna go speak to Anne. And then she's like supposedly getting married, and he's like, I'm too late. But alas, and like, good for him, she's not. She's actively like not with the cousin, and it's all good in the neighborhood. They talk it out, and he's like, you were right to not marry me the first time. I think a little, and then it's like, I should have been more strong in my resolve, and because that is something, and that's something she finally has learned in like Persuasion. Because, and it's like the lesson of persuasion, basically, it's like, it's good to be persuaded. Because, look at like being young is such a dangerous thing, especially for a young girl at the time. Like, you could end up in a bad marriage or in a bad situation, i.e. Lisa Musgrove jumping off the top of the stairs and falling headfirst into the concrete. You could have been, like, even Anne, like, marrying Wentworth, it could have ended really badly for her. Really, really badly. There was no guarantee that whatever he was going to say, it was actually going to work out. Like, that was foolish behavior. And they might have wasted time, but like at the end of the day, they finally learned that, yeah, this is, it had to be the way it has to be. So, of course, they marry. Duh. After that letter, who wouldn't? I was ready to marry him, and he's probably, like, he's not real, and two, he's probably dead. And I would be like, I would have been like, here, I have a ring. I'm just going to put it on my finger. So they marry. So obviously, Cousin Elliot is like, I'm going back to the city, the big city, London, I think. But I'm taking Mrs. Clay with me. She's going to be my mistress. I don't exactly understand why. I think he's like, well, if I can't have Kellynch Hall, neither can Sir Walter Elliot. Because Mrs. Clay was a little bit flirty-wordy with him. Like a little flirtation. But, like, Sir Walter Elliot is broke. And he's renting his house. Cousin Elliot isn't exactly better, but he's young. And he can probably find a way to finagle money out of someone. So something is better than nothing. And so the Walter and Elizabeth Elliot are like, man, boy, well, but who cares about them, because Anne's happy. And with Captain Wentworth's help, they can finally like reinstitute money back into Mrs. Smith. And, Anne is like a good sea wife. She is faithful, loyal, has a good head in her, like, has a good head on her shoulders, smart, perfect, beautiful, great. And yeah, it's really good. It's a really good book. And I think one of the most romantic books that Jane Austen has ever written. Don't come at me with the Pride and Prejudice. Don't come at me, because like Darcy never had that big confession. Like, I know some of y'all know the movie. The movie that, like, I love you. I never wish to be parted from this day on. That was not in the book. What happens is that they have a talk and they like a very pleasant chat about marriage and whatnot. This is like, I think, the first book where it's like a love confession. Like, love. That letter, tattoo it in my heart. I love it. And, it really is just like, it's just so good. And it's just talk about these things that are even important today. It's important to, it's like Don't let people finagle you around, but also sometimes think clearly of, because sometimes people want to persuade you and steer you to certain directions, but it's because of the good intention. So instead of like doing whatever it is, you have to really sit down and think about it, like critical thinking skills to the max. And yes, thank you for listening to me ramble for almost an hour. But you could have been doing anything. Hopefully this is background noise, or it helps you with your book report if you're doing a book report, or if you're thinking of reading the book. I cannot do this book justice. It can never, like, get the book, read the book. If you can, I know it's hard to understand, which is why I had to like be creative with it. It's just honestly such a good book. And thank you for listening to me ramble. Sometimes I will ramble in English, sometimes I will ramble in Spanish. Depends on the book. I'm probably gonna do Eva Luna next, and it's gonna be in Spanish. If you don't like that, don't watch. If you don't like the books that I pick and stuff, don't watch. But if you do, thank you for being here through the journey. If you're bilingual. And yes, thank you for reading the book. Or thank you for listening to me talk about this book. See you in the next one. If I do see you. If you don't see me and nobody sees me, that's okay. As long as I put something out there that finds somebody who likes it, it's all right with me. All right. Bye.